Now this is quite a specialist section within this course. I don't know any course out there that covers this section, and I don't know why, because this area is it's as effective, if not just a little bit less effective, than keyboard shortcuts. This can really help your workflow, and setting up this area, which is the area of buttons underneath the program monitor, setting this up right can really help your workflow. And there are so many things in here that we don't really need, and it may be a bit of a surprise. This button here, what does that mean? Yeah, it means play. I've never clicked on that button, but I've edited hundreds, if not more, videos. That's because play is the space bar. You never use your mouse to click to play. Similarly, stepping back a frame and stepping forward a frame, that's just left and right on your keyboard. And your hand, one hand will always be on your keyboard and one hand will always be on your mouse. And you don't need to be reaching up here to grab things that you don't need to. Toggling proxies is not something that you will do 100 times in an edit. So that's fine to be there. Pressing play, you will be doing hundreds of times depending on the size of edit. Going back and forth, the same. So you don't need to be coming up here to be clicking so many times. As we go through this course, we'll also be playing with these bits up here, and this changes what your cursor does. And so many courses, so many tutorials tell you to come up here and click on the razor tool to cut, and it's that travel, and that means absolutely nothing right now. But if you're down here in an edit and you're having to reach up here every time you need to cut a second, even if it's a second round trip to go up here, click and come back down, you add that second to every single cut, and that all of a sudden will add so much time onto your edit. Just like we've done pretty much with everything up to now, everything is setting you up to have a more efficient workflow. So let's get this area exactly what you need and nothing more. So you saw in the previous chapter, we clicked on this plus button and we dragged down toggle proxies down to here. Add marker. It even tells you, the next one on add marker, it tells you that the shortcut is M. Well, we don't need that here then, do we? So let's drag that and put it back up in there. Here, set in, mark in. This won't make any sense to you now, but the shortcut is I. Mark out, the shortcut is O. We don't need them. They're on our keyboard. This is a space. This creates a space in between these. You see how there's a little bit of an extra space right there? Great. I need that. I keep that space and we space it out nicely. Let's go back to the editor. Here, go to in, which is Shift I. You don't need that. I've never had to say for it to go to where the in point is. I just go to it. It's much easier than reaching up here and clicking a button. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. It's almost like a spring clean. My wife would be very proud of me. And here, lift, extract. I've never used those in my life. We don't need those. This is taking a snapshot. This is exporting a frame. I have a keyboard shortcut for this, but I'm going to leave this here just for now because I want to show you later on down the line what this can do. It's really helpful. What we are going to bring down to here, we're going to bring down FX. What that does is it toggles on and off the effects. If you've got a slower computer, this is really helpful to be able to time up things without taking everything else into consideration. That's really handy. Let's bring a little space. This is the space. See these down here? Let's put a space after the effects. You see how it's just dragging down and dropping? What else do we want? I want this, which is the safe margins. That's really handy. So where are you going? I'll put that there. Come on now. Put it there. Thank you. No, there's another space. This isn't the most intuitive design by Adobe. They could do with cleaning this up a little bit. Let's just leave it there for now. Rulers, guides. We need this. This is brand new in probably the last year, maybe year and a half, and it comes directly from Photoshop, and this makes so many it's so handy. Bring that down, we'll use that. Rulers as well, we'll use that. So is there anything else we may need? We do not need to toggle VR video display. If you're looking to get into VR video display, this course is not going to get you to do that. Revert to trim session, don't need that. We don't need anything else, not that I can see in here. So that's it. How different does that look? We don't need all of the stuff that you just don't use. So right now we have safe margins, rulers, guides, toggling your proxies, FX global mute, export frame, and comparison view. Comparison view is really handy when we're playing with color grading. I'll show you what that does. This also is an update that's come in the last 18 months, maybe 2 years. I don't use it too much. However, it's a really handy tool, which I'll show you how to use a little bit later on. So we're now at the end of our importing media area. We're nearly there. I know this is a lot of information. I know that we've been doing a lot of things effectively blindly because I'm showing you to change things, but we're not actually doing anything. Follow me and I need your faith with this, that I'm setting you up for when we're down here and we're really deep diving into stuff. You already have the knowledge which we're going to be drawing on, so it saves you in the long run. Do you trust me? I hope you do by now. So next up we have interpreting media. It's just that section, and then we're going to be bringing the video down, and it's a short section. It's not too long, but it's the last bit of real information that you need to know to lay this good foundation. Everything that you've learnt up to now would take, I'd say, to really get your head around it, it would be at least a good 5 or 6 classes to get to the knowledge that you're at now. And yet you may feel that you don't know anything, but you really do. You understand about changing these workspaces. What is the one thing that I need to do right now because I've changed this? Exactly. You know that. You know to save this workspace. You know that we've played around with this, and actually by looking at it you know that this is an overflow. Remember the overflow up here? This is an overflow. So what else is in here? We've got the source, effects controls, and audio mixer. So why is it an overflow? That's why. It just wasn't big enough. It's these little things that you will be recognizing as we go around. Just imagine how much more familiar this area now looks to you compared to when we first started. Even your eye can tell you that there are so many workspaces here that we don't need. You didn't know that before you started this course. Why am I saying all this? Because I need you to recognize that you know so much already before you've really done anything. And that knowledge of in this product, just being in this program, will help you going forward. One more thing, that always goes to the right. I'm not typically OCD in my life, but little things within Premiere Pro and all the other ones in After Effects, I'm terrible. It has to be the layout that I have. As I said before earlier, I have a 34-inch ultra-wide display. So actually, I'm moving my mouse off and you can't see it, but I have probably about that much further over to here. And I also have another monitor off to the right. Working in here is so alien to me, and yet I know that so many of you are using a screen this size. So this is where we're working at. But if you get a different size display, if you get a different aspect ratio display, if you get a second display, that's when you can really play as well and move things off. You see, say in colors, I'll just take this moment here. In color, This is Lumetri Color. You have scopes over here, which we will look into. Yeah, sometimes you saw how that was off a little. Sometimes you just need to toggle back and forth just to refresh your whole window. Really, it's quite annoying, but it's an Adobe thing. But I have my Lumetri scopes. These don't live here in my big wide display. That gets dragged off, and I drag it all the way off onto a second monitor, and it's huge. But the point I want to make is that you already know so much about this program, more in my opinion. And this is it sounds a little bit like, oh, look at me, but in my opinion, I've given you the best foundation that I've ever seen in a course. Because so many courses that I've done, that I've looked through, that I've even purchased myself over the past 10 years, because you're always learning in this program and all of these programs, but none of the courses that I've watched and sat through have ever given me the combination of the foundations of this that I've given you. You may be so bored. You may want to know more without doing anything. Highly unlikely. But I promise you, I've given you the best foundation I can to start you on your journey. Next up, we're interpreting media, which is looking at the frame rates. I know, we're back to that. But the frame rates and how that will affect in your sequence. It's not long. It's not too long to go, and we'll be there. I promise. Keep the faith. We will get there. If you fancy, I would go back and maybe look at a few of the chapters that possibly you don't really remember. If you're looking on the list now and you think, do I remember what was in that chapter? Just go back and have a quick read, a quick watch through. Maybe even skim through the video and just make sure you understand everything that I've said. Don't forget, you can always go back. You can watch this as many times as you want. You can always go back. And there will be times as we go through this now, from this point, where I'll say, remember, we touched on that in chapter 2 or in chapter 3. And I'll do my best not to reteach what I've already taught. So if you get lost at any point, go back and have a look at that. If you don't quite remember and I lose you a little bit, yeah, go back, go and watch chapter 2 again, chapter 3 again, wherever that is, and then come back. Don't ever be worried of relearning. Only a fool would not try and recap their learning. We're nearly there. Just keep the faith.